Welcome back to Passport Romance Stories, where we share real cautionary tales about love, trust, and the risks people never see coming when chasing a new life abroad. Tonight's story starts the same way many retirement dreams do. A tropical island, warm nights, cheap living, and the feeling that maybe life was finally beginning again. But before you sell everything and move overseas for romance, you need to hear what happened to one retiree who thought he had found paradise. Because by the end of this story, his savings were gone, his relationship vanished, and he was stranded in a foreign country wondering how everything collapsed so quietly. This is the story of how one man retired to Thailand and watched his bank account slowly hit zero. In early 2024, Alex Mercer was 63 years old and exhausted with life in Birmingham. The pandemic years had changed him. He'd spent decades working maintenance contracts for commercial buildings. Early mornings, long drives, constant stress, and after his divorce, the silence of retirement hit him harder than he expected. Every day felt identical until he discovered Thailand. At first, it was YouTube videos, beachfront apartments for a fraction of UK prices, street food for £2, retirees talking about finally living, and Koh Samui became the obsession. Palm trees, ocean views, slow mornings, friendly people. For the first time in years, Alex felt excited about something. His pension payout and savings gave him roughly £185,000 after selling his house. Not millionaire money, but enough to live comfortably if he was careful. At least, that's what he believed. Friends told him to slow down. His daughter asked if maybe he should rent first before making permanent plans. But Alex wasn't thinking cautiously anymore. He was thinking emotionally, because after years of feeling invisible, Thailand made him feel alive again. By August 2024, he landed in Koh Samui with 2 suitcases and a 1-year retirement visa. And in the beginning, it really did feel like paradise. He met her 3 weeks later. Her name was Sompon. She worked at a beachfront restaurant near Chaweng and spoke enough English to hold long conversations. She laughed easily, remembered small details about him, asked how he slept, asked if he'd eaten, things nobody had asked him in years. That mattered more than he realised. At first, it felt innocent. Dinner after her shifts, scooter rides through the island at night, markets, beaches, small moments. Alex told himself he was being sensible, but slowly his entire routine began revolving around her. And that's when the shift started. Not with one big mistake, but with dozens of small emotional decisions. She told him her mother was sick. Not dramatically, not like a scammer demanding urgent money. That's what made it believable. It came up casually during dinner. A hospital visit, medication, stress. Alex offered to help. She resisted at first, or at least appeared to. That hesitation made him trust her more. So he transferred the money. A small amount, nothing alarming. And afterwards, she became even warmer towards him, more affectionate, more emotionally dependent. Soon, he wasn't just helping her, he was helping her family. School fees for a nephew, repairs for a leaking roof, support payments during slow tourist months. Each request sounded temporary, each amount felt manageable, and every time he hesitated, she pulled away emotionally, just enough for him to notice. Never arguments, never threats, just distance, shorter replies, cancelled plans, coldness. Then, once he helped, Alex noticed the pattern. but by then he was emotionally invested enough to explain it away. By January 2025, Alex was convinced he had found his future wife. He stopped talking about returning to England. Now he talked about permanence, a house, a business, a future in Thailand. That's when some introduced the idea of land. Foreigners can't legally own land in Thailand directly, so many retirees rely on local partners for leases, ownership structures, or business arrangements. Alex researched it online. Mixed opinions, some warnings, some success stories, but every negative story felt different from his. Because this relationship felt real. That's the dangerous part. Nobody thinks they're the warning story while they're inside it. Some showed him land outside Lamai, quiet area, coconut trees, small hill views, perfect for retirement. Alex hesitated. The land would need to go in her name. That bothered him. For several weeks he delayed. But every time he hesitated, some framed it differently. You don't trust me? I thought we were building a life together. You think I'm using you? And eventually, the emotional pressure became stronger than the financial fear. So he transferred the money, nearly £90,000, just like that. The strange thing was, nothing collapsed immediately. In fact, things improved for a while. Construction started, photos arrived daily, some became affectionate again. She called him husband. Her family welcomed him warmly. There were ceremonies, dinners, drinking, smiling relatives. Alex felt accepted, needed, important, and once someone feels emotionally secure, they stop checking for danger. That's exactly what happened. He stopped monitoring his accounts carefully. Some began helping with finances because Thai banking was complicated. Then she helped with visa paperwork. Then she handled contractors. Then she managed transfers because local businesses preferred Thai accounts. Little by little, Alex surrendered control without realising he was doing it. And the withdrawals accelerated. Furniture, building delays, contractor disputes, family emergencies, temporary loans, unexpected taxes. Every problem required money immediately, and every hesitation created tension. Sometimes Som cried. Sometimes she disappeared for a day or two. Sometimes her brother suddenly became involved. Alex began feeling pressure constantly, but by then he'd already committed so much financially that backing out of it felt impossible, because admitting the truth would mean admitting he'd destroyed his own retirement. So instead he kept paying. The moment happened in April 2026. A normal morning, coffee shop, heat, humidity, traffic outside. Alex tried withdrawing cash from an ATM. Transaction declined. He frowned, tried again, declined. At first he thought it was a fraud protection, or maybe a connection issue. Then he opened his banking app and froze. Balance £0. He stared at the screen for nearly a full minute. Refresh, still zero. Again, zero. His chest tightened. He walked outside the ATM booth and sat down on the curb, trying to breathe, because suddenly every ignored warning came back all at once. Over the next 2 days, Alex went through the transaction histories, and that's when the real horror began. The money hadn't disappeared suddenly. It had been draining slowly for months. Hundreds here, thousands there. Transfers he barely remembered approving. Cash withdrawals from accounts some had access to. Construction payments, family loans, emergency transfers. The worst part, some transactions had happened while he was asleep. Others while he believed money was safely sitting untouched in savings. Nearly everything had been moved, spent or emptied. When he confronted Som, she didn't panic. That frightened him most. She stayed calm, too calm. She told him the money had gone towards their future. Then the arguments started, and within a week she disappeared completely. Phone off, apartment empty, gone. That's when paradise became terrifying. Alex suddenly realised something most tourists never think about. You can become trapped overseas very quickly when your money disappears. His retirement visa required proof of funds. His rent was overdue. His insurance payments failed. He couldn't even afford a flight home. And legally, things became even worse, because most of the transfers had technically been voluntary. The land was in Som's name. The payments were authorised. Police listened politely, but treated it like a relationship dispute. Not theft, civil matter. That phrase nearly broke him. Civil matter. Years of savings gone, and legally almost impossible to recover. For 2 months, Alex lived inside survival mode, selling possessions, borrowing money from expat acquaintances, avoiding immigration checks, trying to negotiate payment extensions. He stopped calling family because he couldn't face the shame. That's what nobody talks about enough. Not just the financial collapse, the humiliation, the realisation that loneliness made you vulnerable in ways you never understood before, and how slowly manipulation can happen when it's wrapped inside affection. Because Alex still struggled with one thought more than any other. What if some of it was real? That question haunted him, even after everything. Stories like this make people ask one simple question: how could someone let this happen? But the truth is, it rarely happens all at once. It happens through gradual trust, small compromises, emotional dependency, isolation, and the belief that love means providing loyalty financially. We'd like to thank the viewer who shared this story, because stories like this aren't about judging people. They're about understanding how easily emotional pressure, loneliness and trust can slowly override caution, especially when someone believes they've finally found happiness. If you have a story you'd like to share, you can send it in completely anonymously. And if this story made you think differently about retirement abroad, relationships, or protecting yourself financially, make sure you subscribe to Passport Romance Stories, because sometimes the most dangerous scams don't feel like scams at all, and the next story might be closer to reality than you think.